I'm Katie Couric. How's this for climate change? Much of the country is plunged into a deep freeze as what had been a warm winter suddenly turned sub-zero.
How you doing? Welcome.
Rudy's running. America's mayor adds his name to the ever-growing list of presidential candidates. A special series, The American Spirit. Remarkable people with big ideas. Tonight, free college for everyone. And that's a promise.
We will not rest until every child is educated every time.
And too many kids seeing porn on the internet. What's a parent to do?
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
Hi, everyone. If you've been wondering what happened to winter, chances are you're getting your answer tonight. A huge chunk of the country has been hit with an ice-cold slap in the face. An Arctic blast sent chills from the Great Plains all the way to Maine today. And when you factor in the wind, it feels like 10, even 20 degrees below zero. Cynthia Bowers reports now from Indianapolis, where Colts fans may be on fire, even though it only got to 10 degrees.
It's so cold when you walk outside, the hair on your nose freezes.
This was the refrain all across the Midwest and Northeast, where millions of people woke up to bone-chilling cold. Hundreds of thousands of students got an unexpected day off, and thousands of drivers never got started.
Dead battery. Out overnight. Too cold.
Learning was stalled at schools in Wisconsin, Indiana, Ohio, and Michigan, where school buses wouldn't start, and it was far too cold to let any child walk to school. In western New York, the big problem was snow, piled 5 feet deep in some places. In Indianapolis, where the mercury barely topped zero, even underground power lines had to be defrosted with a blowtorch to keep the city's power grid online. Letter carrier Tim Moore thought he'd weathered everything in his 30 years on the job.
I think these are the coldest days that I've actually seen in a long time.
Cold made all the more cruel when you consider that just a month ago in Chicago, golfers were teeing off in temperatures near 60. Today in the Windy City, the high was a breathtaking 1 degree above zero. Folks in D.C. who were swimming in 64-degree weather last month woke up this morning to a high of 21. The government's top forecasters say even for February, these temperatures are extreme.
These are the kind of temperatures that you would be experiencing in northern Canada rather than in the middle of the United States.
But despite the bitter cold, thousands gathered in Indy to welcome their Super Bowl champions.
But there's absolutely nothing that would have stopped me from coming in this frigid weather to support my Colts, man. Nothing.
Sure, that's easy to say when it's clear and cold, but by tomorrow night, Indianapolis could be under half a foot of snow. Part of a storm band that's expected to dump 3 to 5 inches from Peoria, Illinois, all the way to Charleston, West Virginia. Katie.
All right, Cynthia, thanks. Now get inside, okay? While much of the country endures the big chill, in Central Florida, they're still picking up the pieces from last week's tornadoes. Authorities say 20 people died in the storms. At least 3 tornadoes touched down. The one that hit Lady Lake had winds of at least 155 miles an hour. And people there say there's got to be a way to warn them before a killer storm moves in. Sharon Alfonsi has one man's story.
That thing wrapped around that tree, it's Roger McKinnon's home.
Life was good, and then all of a sudden it's destroyed.
Roger was at work when a tornado tore through his trailer and killed his wife.
I loved it more than life. I'm devastated. I'm lost.
The thing Roger finds comfort in is the same thing that haunts him. She had no warning.
Her and the dogs were just sleeping. I'm glad she didn't suffer.
The tornadoes have reignited the debate about outdoor warning sirens. Should they be mandatory? Florida is second only to the Midwest Tornado Alley when it comes to twisters touching down. But most counties here don't have them.
Do you think sirens would have helped here?
Well, I think anything that would have alerted to the citizens that there was a potential problem there would have helped.
Public safety officials haven't been convinced that the sound of sirens would carry through the heavily wooded areas of Central Florida, and installing them would be expensive, anywhere from $4 to $9 million for this county alone.
If it's going to be of an aid and save lives in our community, you know, money's not the factor.
Other state officials in Oklahoma and Arkansas say sirens have saved lives in their rural communities. Roger McKinnon isn't sure a siren would have changed the outcome for his wife.
Would it have helped?
I don't know. You know, that's the hard question to answer.
Officials say the best bet is to buy a weather alert radio, something that actually issues storm warnings. Unfortunately for residents here, most stores in this area are now sold out of them. Katie?
All right, Sharon Alfonsi. Sharon, thank you. Turning now to politics, today Rudy Giuliani filed the papers necessary to begin a run for president. In the months after 9/11, he became known as America's mayor. But could he be America's president? Our national political correspondent Gloria Borger is in Washington tonight. Gloria, Giuliani supports abortion rights, gay rights, and gun control. And given the conservative Republican base that comes out during the primary process, does he have a chance?
Well, Katie, I think the Giuliani candidacy is going to test just how much sway those cultural conservatives will have in the Republican Party. Some of them have already come out and said that Giuliani is completely unacceptable. But I spoke with Giuliani aides today, and they tell me that they have answers for conservatives on each of these issues. For example, they're going to tie gun control to crime. They're going to say he was the mayor of New York City. New York was a mess with a terrible crime problem. He got guns off the street. Therefore, he's a leader.
And Gloria, I know the primary schedule could in fact change this election cycle. What impact do you think that will have on his candidacy?
Well, I think it could be huge for Rudy Giuliani if states like California and New Jersey move up their primaries. He feels he can just do so-so in Iowa and New Hampshire, then move next door to New Jersey and win. Lots of like-minded, moderate Republicans there, Katie.
All right, Gloria Borger reporting from Washington tonight. So far, the issue for 2008 presidential candidates is, of course, the war in Iraq. And tonight, it's also the subject of a confrontation between President Bush and the new Democratic Congress. A few hours ago, the Senate began the wrangling over a resolution opposing Mr. Bush's plan to send more troops to Iraq. Cheryl Atkinson is on Capitol Hill. Cheryl, so far, this doesn't seem to be going according to the Democrats' plan.
Not at all, Katie. In fact, just a short time ago, Republicans blocked the Iraq resolutions from moving forward at all. They weren't satisfied with the rules that the Democrats have laid out for the debate.
President Bush has been warning Congress against passing critical resolutions, and today also cautioned against setting timetables for withdrawing troops.
Because we don't want to send mixed signals to an enemy or to a struggling democracy or to our troops.
That argument has been hitting home even with some Republicans who are against sending more troops, and there are quite a few of them. But privately expressing doubt is very different from casting a vote against a president's war plan.
Everybody's in dangerous waters now because it's like that moment in the Alamo when the line's drawn in the sand. These resolutions are saying, which side are you on? Let's see your true colors. Politicians often like to camouflage themselves. They don't have that opportunity anymore.
This doesn't end things, though, Katie. A senior Republican just told me, quote, we have to speak to this issue. So party leaders will probably be talking privately about how to get things back on track, possibly tomorrow.
All right, to be continued. Thank you, Cheryl. And how's this for irony? Today's Capitol Hill confrontation began 4 years to the day after then Secretary of State Colin Powell made a dramatic speech at the UN to make the case that Iraq was hiding weapons of mass destruction. It was a brilliant performance, enough to sell the Congress and the nation on going to war. But before long, it became an embarrassment. National security correspondent David Martin looks back 4 years later.
What we're giving you are facts and conclusions based on solid intelligence.
That statement about the evidence Saddam Hussein was hiding weapons of mass destruction was made by one of the most trusted men in America. Weapons Inspector David Kay remembers being impressed.
It was partly because it came with Powell's reputation as much as the individual facts.
He assumed the intelligence Powell had unveiled was only the tip of the iceberg.
We have first-hand descriptions of biological weapons factories on wheels and on rails.
To have detailed diagrams of what those labs look like seemed to me it meant that you had pretty detailed intelligence from inside the program.
But after the invasion, Kay was put in charge of finding the WMD, and he found out where those diagrams came from.
It was a single source, a source that the U.S. intelligence had never at that point talked to, didn't know his name, and in fact, he was a fabricator.
The intelligence about Iraq was not all wrong. On the eve of the invasion, CIA analysts, including Paul Pillar, warned the aftermath could get ugly.
It would be long, it would be turbulent, it would be filled with conflict and probably violence.
But, says former CIA officer and now CBS consultant John Brennan, the administration passed over that intelligence.
And I don't think there was enough attention paid to those assessments that said after the war, after the invasion, there's going to be difficulty in the streets of Iraq and in Baghdad.
Bad intelligence about WMD started the war, but it can't be blamed for all that has happened since.
We would still have the same bloodshed, instability, and destruction, even if we did uncover those treasure troves of purported weapons.
Powell now says his UN speech will forever be a blot on his reputation. And George Tenet, who was Director of Central Intelligence at the time, admits in a soon-to-be-published book he let Powell down. Katie?
David Martin at the Pentagon tonight. David, thank you. There's much more CBS News ahead. Coming up next, we kick off our very special series, The American Spirit. They're making dreams come true in Kalamazoo for students who never thought they could afford a college education. CBS News in Focus. This week, we're launching an ongoing series called The American Spirit. We'll profile remarkable people tackling big problems. Tonight, making a college education available to everyone who wants one. It's not a given. Among families earning more than $85,000, 1 of every 2 students will earn a bachelor's degree by age 24. In families earning $35,000 or less, the chances go down dramatically to 1 in 17. But imagine if money were taken out of the equation. Here's the first in our series, The American Spirit.
Good morning, man. How you doing?
Welcome to Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
America's unlikely educational promised land, thanks to the Kalamazoo Promise.
Hi, Katie. Janice Brown.
So nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
And meet Kalamazoo's patron saint of education, Superintendent Janice Brown.
We will not rest until every child is educated every time.
7 years ago, this one-time special ed teacher hatched a very special idea, a free college education for everyone in her school district.
And what will you do with your money?
She says it took 5 years of conversations and a lot of faith to convince a group of anonymous donors to foot the bill, $12 million a year. And don't even try to ask her about who they are. How many people are we talking here in terms of donors?
I just say the donors. Very good.
Students have to maintain a C average. They must attend a Kalamazoo public school for 4 years to have 65% of their tuition covered.
Floor director.
The longer they're there, the more they get. If they attend from kindergarten on, it's a free ride. You have a lot of families moving here for this very reason, because they think, wow, my child's education is going to be covered.
We have people from, I think, 23 different states right now. We had a family come in from Russia.
In a way, the focus is on education, but it results in what I guess they called in the Reagan administration trickle-down economics, right?
It may even be trickle-up education. How can you have a healthy community, healthy economics, if you do not have a very well-educated workforce? Can't happen.
Since the program started last year, the economic impact has been swift and impressive. The one-time manufacturing town relied on paper mills. When they shut down, the city fell on hard times. But now it's learning a lot about the power of the promise. 800 new families in the school district, a $10 million housing development, rising property values, and 2 new schools. But the impact of motivating Kalamazoo's kids, priceless. How have you seen this change the school system and the students?
A first grader come up to me and say, I'm going to college. I don't know what it is, but I'm going.
Money's going to be a lot easier to come by for school.
That's great. And your folks too?
Oh yeah, my mom cried.
She did?
Yeah. I was near dropping out
And so once I heard about the promise, I got back in school and am currently getting my grades up to graduate this year.
How about you, Sierra? Do you ever wonder what would happen if you didn't have these opportunities?
I wonder what would happen if I didn't go to college. I wouldn't be the same.
Shake it, baby.
But the Kalamazoo Promise cannot promise everything.
Damn, hello.
25% of the population lives below the poverty line.
Yes, ma'am.
Some of them are homeless, and some of them are having real struggles.
They can't think about the Kalamazoo Promise if they're hungry. They can't think about the Kalamazoo Promise if they're angry and lashing out. So that's the challenge. Scoot over some more.
But in so many ways, it has delivered more inspired students,
Click on your oscilloscope.
a more educated city, and kids who are as invested in Kalamazoo's future as Kalamazoo is in theirs.
I would like to experience life, go off and do something else, but I will come back to Kalamazoo. I'm just gonna come back and do whatever I gotta do to return the favor.
Do you think it could be replicated in other cities across the country?
Absolutely. What the Kalamazoo Promise is about is will. And whether or not a community has the will to do this work is the true question. Apparently, Michigan Governor Jennifer Granholm does. Tomorrow, she's expected to announce plans to create promise zones to help students and communities throughout her state. And other leaders all around the country are looking to follow Kalamazoo's lead as well. Tomorrow, can you imagine going to a hospital and getting sicker or even dying? That's what happens to nearly 100,000 Americans every year. You'll meet a doctor who says enough is enough as we continue our series, The American Spirit. Up next, could the internet be safer for kids? Apparently, what's finding them is a major problem. Now a problem every parent should care about. It's called ambush porn. A new study warns that nearly half of our kids are being ambushed by obscene websites. Daniel Seberg now on what you need to know.
Ryan Morano's a cyber-savvy 10-year-old. He knows how to keep the dirty stuff off his screen.
Because something could pop up at any time, and if you don't have a pop-up blocker, you could be exposed to these bad pictures.
That's good advice, especially since some kids may be unprepared for so-called ambush porn. It's unwanted, potentially harmful, and a growing problem. A new study finds that 34% of kids between 10 and 17 experienced such a surprise online. That's up from 25% just a few years ago. For many children, online porn is just a few accidental mouse taps away. It could be clicking on a pop-up ad or a spam email message, or simply misspelling a website, like when I add an extra L to Google. Internet filtering software like NetNanny or Cyber Patrol can help, but experts like Perry Aftab from WiredSafety.org say it's critical to have candid discussions in the classroom and the living room.
Bottom line, you need to let your kids know that if they stumble on something that upsets them, that they can come to you and you won't blame them.
Think of it as shielding kids from the trash scattered along the information superhighway. Daniel Seberg, CBS News, New York.
And that is the CBS Evening News for tonight. I'm Katie Couric. Thanks so much for watching. I hope to see you again tomorrow. Good night.